it is a reminder of the threat facing American lawmakers and government institutions. Not only has Homeland Security put out a first-of-its-kind alert about the potential for lone wolf domestic extremists, but for one local congressman, the potential danger is hitting closer to home. Just this week, a California man was arrested for sending threatening messages to relatives of Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. The suspect charged with making threatening interstate communications on the day of the Capitol riots. We are joined now by Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, chair of the House Democrat Caucus, who is here to share with us where this investigation stands and more on the domestic terrorism concerns. Congressman Jeffries, thank you for being with us today.
Morning, Betty. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's go back to these threatening text messages. They were being sent to your brother and sister-in-law just as lawmakers were evacuating the Capitol during the siege. Where were you and how did you learn of this?
While I was being evacuated at the time, the Capitol was under attack by a violent mob, as part of the effort to stop us from undertaking our constitutional responsibilities to certify the election of Joe Biden. As I was being evacuated and arriving at a secure location, there was a lot of uncertainty. A lot of us were in communication with our families. And then I received word that my brother had received and my sister-in-law these threatening text messages on his personal cell phone. We have no idea how this individual acquired that information, as well as presenting images of his neighborhood, making it clear that they were prepared to strike out unless I was told to stop lying about the election, which is the fascinating thing about this entire issue and connects it to the big lie that Donald Trump has told, that he actually won the election and that the presidency was stolen from him. He has radicalized millions of individuals, some of whom are prepared to engage in violent action.
Yeah, I want to get to that because, as you mentioned, there were a photo sent of your brother's neighborhood, and in that threatening text, that person said, "We are armed and nearby your house." That is absolutely frightening. So I want to ask you, we've seen the FBI put out these warnings for these lone wolf extremists, but in hearing your words right there, it sounds like you believe this is someone that's not just a lone wolf, this is someone who has been radicalized by the former president.
Well, that's correct. This all began because Donald Trump engaged in a big lie, that he won the election, not Joe Biden. And as a result, you've got millions of people across the country who actually believe the former president, notwithstanding the fact that the Trump FBI department found no evidence of voter fraud. The Trump Justice Department, no evidence of voter fraud. Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, no evidence of voter fraud. Republican elected officials across the country, including the governor of Georgia and the governor of Arizona, have indicated there's no evidence of voter fraud, that Joe Biden won those respective states. And 60 court decisions have been issued, many by Republican judges who have said there's no evidence of voter fraud, and these lawsuits being brought by Trump's attorneys are frivolous. And so he told a big lie, and many Americans actually believed it. That's why there were hundreds, if not thousands, of people who stormed the Capitol violently and were there actually to assassinate Nancy Pelosi, hunt down members of Congress, and hang Mike Pence, all connected to the radicalization facilitated and incited by Donald Trump.
Congressman, we know that the FBI has more than 400 suspects connected to this Capitol riot, 150 cases filed. The man in particular in your case has been arrested. What about the push that was ongoing shortly after this for lawmakers who may have aided in this situation?
Well, I think that's something that we're looking at, but what's in front of us right now is the impeachment trial of Donald Trump for inciting a violent insurrection. And it's my hope that both the Democratic senators and the Republican senators are going to follow the facts, apply the law, be guided by the Constitution, and let the chips fall where they may. Because in America, no one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. And the framers of the Constitution were very clear in creating our democratic republic. They didn't want a king, they didn't want a monarch, they didn't want a dictator, they wanted a democracy. And so we have to start by holding the president, former president, twice impeached president, accountable. But as you've mentioned, some of the lawmakers, most prominently Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz, bear responsibility for providing aid and comfort to a violent insurrection. And we need to look at holding them accountable for their actions as well.
There's a lot of balls in the air right now, and I want to get to something that you just said that's holding the former president accountable for this. But, we saw a procedural vote earlier this week, and it doesn't seem like the Republicans have the support to do just that, and that is convict the president.
Well, that remains to be seen. That was a procedural vote, and the evidence hasn't been presented by the impeachment managers. And I expect that when it is presented, it will be incredibly compelling, both for the senators, regardless of party affiliation, as well as for the American people. And that will be done in due course. At the same time, we've got a lot of other work that we're doing as well, and looking to do that in a bipartisan way, crushing the coronavirus, providing direct assistance to the New Yorkers and the everyday Americans who are struggling, and beginning to supercharge our economy. So there's a lot happening in Washington, and there are a lot of conversations across the aisle. I would not interpret the procedural vote as an indication that the possibility of a conviction is dead on arrival. All
right, Congressman, well, we are glad that you and your family are safe. Thank you for bringing this to light and sharing that story, because it's very important to the situation at hand. Thank you so much for your time with us today, and please come back soon. We appreciate talking to you.
Thank you, Betty.